That's me. I'm the little fish swimming against the tide. I'm not the anti-digital guy, okay? Make myself very clear about that. Digital, to me, is beautiful. Digital's sexy. But most important, digital's an enabler. What I am going to do, though, is call into question some of the what I feel is the overriding conventional wisdoms in the communications and media industry, and ask some questions around that. So, advertising is the space around persuasion to consideration. Digital, or some of digital, is the conversion to sale. And the symbiosis between the two is evident. But we live in a place called South Africa, and we have this kind of dichotomy, developed world, developing world, and it's very much a reality, and that's what I'm going to keep bringing you back to tonight, to say, let's not forget who we live amongst, let's not forget our audience, okay, because they're critical. The obstacle is connectivity. We have this incredible amount of bandwidth coming into South Africa via these undersea cables. We've got SAT3, 1995 or so, when that was switched on. 340 gigabits per second was the capacity, the carrying capacity of that. We've now got WAX, ACE, EASY, up and down the east and west coast of Africa, adding another 15,000 gigs per second of capacity. But it's potential. Landing a $1 billion undersea cable in South Africa is one thing, but then you've got to connect it right down to your home, your office, your toilet. And in between that is a huge amount of infrastructure, a massive amount of capital investment. And as a result, we have a fixed 2.2% fixed broadband, mobile broadband 26% household penetration, 25.5% or so, and 41% of individuals in South Africa have access to the internet. Now, 41% is a great percentage. Let's not be confused about that. It's a hell of a lot better than we were 5 years ago. But you've got to talk about the quality of that connection, and I think that's fundamentally what I'm coming down to. So if you look at data, voice, or the basic VoIP, you need around a connection of a couple of hundred kilobits a second to connect, and basically it'll give you a GPRS connection. If you're on 3G, you probably get worse. And the average, about 85% of Telkom's ADSL lines are sitting at 2 megs per second. And we all know that that's the maximum carrying capacity. That's not the real capacity. That's the maximum technologically specified. In reality, depending on how many other people in the neighborhood are online at the same time, whether somebody's downloading, not downloading, et cetera, you can get anywhere between 1 kilobit a second and about maybe 900 kilobits a second. Okay. But if you want to talk about HD TV today, you need around about 15 megs a second line. Now, Telkom's got 10 meg lines. Okay. Stand in the queue, ladies and gentlemen. In my house, I live in Durban, in suburban Durban, where they put new cables recently. I can get 2 megs a second. It's very unsexy. Okay, it's not the bandwidth, it's the carrying capacity. It's the speed at which you connect, and it's a pain in the proverbial. So that's a problem. And then let's look around some of the areas of the rest of the world. So let's look at a territory of East Asia. The size of the bubble indicates the size of the market. So it's between 10 and 20, call it 22, 23% penetration, okay, but big numbers, okay. Growing at about 2.5% a year. That's the rate of broadband. That's mobile and fixed. That's everything, broadband. Okay, more developed markets like Western Europe, North America, obviously much higher penetrations, around 30 to 35, closing on 40% by now, and that's the whole of the continent of Africa. Growing faster than anyone else, but off a tiny base and fairly minuscule. Okay, it's a problem, guys. It's a serious, serious problem on lots of levels, and it's not just about advertising communication. My point is, this is South Africa, not South Korea. South Korea, I can step in on a tube that's 6 stories beneath the city, and I've still got 8 megs a second wireless connectivity, and I can stop at 3 tube stations and do my shopping online. You've seen the video This is the IAB's preferred source of data, PwC, Global Entertainment and Media Outlook. It's basically 2012, actual numbers that they've measured, and projections through to 2017. The big red band is television. The big blue band, growing at a hell of a rapid rate, is digital. And then newspapers, magazines, radio, and out-of-home, or outdoor, as we like to call it in South Africa. And to break down that big digital blue band, they break it, and this is fairly standard, break it into 5 categories. Search, which is the big daddy, display, classified, mobile, video. And you can see mobile growing very nicely, video growing very nicely, display growing nicely, and search being the real big daddy in that. But I have a problem with 2 of those categories. First of that is if you tot up the search and the classified, those are the 2 categories I have a problem with in terms of measuring advertising revenue, and I'll explain that now. We're talking $57 billion US dollars in 2012, projected to 96, call it 100 billion. That's a lot of moolah. But classified is non-commercial in my book. And that's, again, my opinion. Classified is me selling my mountain bike, is my favorite sort of retort on that. But it's buyer-seller. It's commercial in the sense that it connects the buyer with the seller. So there's a transaction in that space, of course. But it's not commercial in the advertising sense of the word. There is no middleman. Okay, if you're the media owner, you're the buyer, you're the seller of the space. They're connecting the buyer with the seller, but it is not a commercial space where anyone in between, which is a lot of people, agencies certainly in this room, ain't seeing any slice of that pie. Okay, so should it be measured as me selling my mountain bike? Should it be measured alongside with ABSA's new ad campaign? No. What I'm saying, don't measure the dollar that they are getting from me selling my mountain bike alongside the dollar that they're spending getting me to the site via mainstream media or any other media, digital included, online. And the other thing with the big daddy is search. For me, search is signage. Okay, and this is probably the most controversial point that you'll hear tonight, certainly from my point of view. Search is landmark and directional, and I'll give you the simple example for those of you who read the article about KFC. If we're going to add every digital pixel that's on the web out there, measure, because you can measure it, and put a value to it, then I'm saying we're not comparing apples and apples. Then you need to add, and the marketers out there will know this, every store sign you've got, every apron on every person serving KFC, every serviette, every piece of packaging, of which there are tens of thousands, every, and you start adding that up, but it's big money. And I would fathom a guess that it's equal to what they spend on advertising. So all I'm saying is that if you're looking at digital, you've got to look at digital. You can't look at it as an amorphous glob. You've got to segment it. So there's that chart again, that big blue line, growing very nicely off a big base. But then I stripped out search and I stripped out classified. And that big blue line is still a big blue line, but it's not anywhere near as impressive as it was before. And I think that's a much more accurate measure of when we talk digital's contribution to the dollar. Television, the big red line. This is the same measures, stripped out classified and search. Global TV line growing, projected to grow at that pretty much in line with, off a much smaller base, the digital line as well. So anyone who tells you that television is dying is talking twack. Anyone who says newspapers are dying, they're not healthy, they're not growing, well, not projected to grow, but they're stable. Magazines, the purple line, stable. Radio and out-of-home growing, or smaller bases and growing slower. The fastest growth, unquestionably, is off digital, but you would expect that because it's the new player on the block. But mainstream, as in broadcast media, mass media, is not going anywhere, is my argument. Okay. If I had $1 for every time I'd heard this, I wouldn't be standing here. I'd be fishing in Mozambique. So here, back to PwC. This is the number of newspapers printed in 2008 and distributed, 516 million. 2012, 547 million, and projected to be close to 600 million by 2017. Where are the cadavers in that slide? This inner blue ring is, with a little yellow slice of 5%, was the 2012 digital revenue from newspapers. In other words, newspapers who sold their content or sold advertising on their online in 2012, 5%. It's projected to grow exponentially to 11%. But 11% ain't revolutionary in my book. That's my point. One of the reasons for that is called inventory. There's Fogoli on the shelf. And very simply, how many of these can you sell in a 24, 32-page or 36-page newspaper? Quite a lot of inventory. Maybe a couple of 100,000, maybe a couple of million, probably. How much can you sell on a web space? Not that much, because every link that you click on takes you to a new page, a fresh page, a clean page. But the point is that the inventory shrinks. So the newspaper guys, not all of them, most of them, screwed it up spectacularly by taking their inventory, their content, selling it in one forum, giving it away in another channel, and then taking their inventory and shrinking it down 100-fold or 50-fold or whatever it was, and then trying to sell it. Well, hello. That's why newspapers are going bang. Then you take it to the mobile space. How much inventory can you sell on a smartphone app? I'll tell you how much. Close to 5, maybe, if you're good. This is back to PwC, South Africa this time. There's television, there's newspapers. Hello, this is their projections, not mine. There's magazines, there's radio, there's out-of-home, there's internet. And internet, by the way, in South Africa, they don't break it down into search and whatever else because Google doesn't let them, and various other things. But all digital, 4% by their numbers in 2012 to 9% in 2017. Not exactly what I would call revolutionary, once more. Okay, once again, let me remind you, and I'm going to finish now with one of my favorite authors, Bob Hoffman. Marketers always overestimate the attraction of new things and underestimate the power of traditional consumer behavior. Okay, all I'm saying is I'm not anti-digital. It absolutely has its place. I sell it every day of my life. But do it with your corp screwed on, do it with balance, and just make sure you know what you're doing and who you're talking to. Because everything has a role. It's about the right channel for the right time and the right combination. And there's lots of sexy places where all the players can play. But newspapers aren't dead, television ain't dead, and digital isn't driven the revolution. Thank you very much. Okay.